been more than 5 years since you first contacted the Senate Judiciary Committee to reveal the story on Turkish bribery of high-level U.S. officials. Can you tell us about how this has evolved since then and where it stands now?
Sure. It's been slightly over 5 years since I went to the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I had briefing sessions with both Senator Grassley's staff and Senator Leahy's staff from the Judiciary Committee, briefing them in classified fashion in terms of giving them specifics, document number, document names, names of specific targets, and the issues themselves related to my case. And as you may remember, a few months after I briefed the Senate Judiciary Committee, both senators started speaking out pretty loudly in the media. We had the CBS 60 Minutes segment when Senator Grassley showed up and said, "Oh, this is outrageous. Even people within the FBI have confirmed all her stories, and we need to turn the FBI upside down on this issue." And at the same time, Senator Leahy was making similar statements, and they were both trying to actually put together a hearing on this case. And later I was told that due to the chairman at the time, I believe it was Senator Hatch, it was being prevented internally from having a hearing and bringing these people, some of these good FBI agents who would be telling the truth under oath, other witnesses from both sides, and shed light on this issue. And it didn't happen, unfortunately. And again, 2 years later, we had this report that was issued, and again, this is the unclassified version of that report by the Inspector General's office. And this is the Department of Justice's own Inspector General's office. And after 2 years of investigating, the report confirmed my reports. And in fact, one of the conclusions of the report was it was appalling that despite the fact that these allegations were supported by documents and other witnesses, FBI refused to do any follow-up or investigation, real investigation on this case. So you have this case, which has been, for the past 5 years, confirmed by congressional sources, people familiar with my case, confirmed by the Inspector General's office. This is for the Department of Justice's Inspector General's office. Never contradicted or denied by the Justice Department or the FBI. And to a certain degree, very small amounts received media scrutiny, again, initially, mainly being a confirmed case, a legit case that has been confirmed by these different sources, and nothing has been done. 5 years plus, there has been no hearing. There has not been a real investigation of this case within the Justice Department or the FBI. Nobody has been held accountable. And we are basically where we had started. And I find that really appalling, and it's a very sad situation, not for me only or for my case, because many people, they think this case is about one whistleblower. It's about one language specialist whistleblower who worked for the FBI and wrongfully was terminated. It was not that, because I wouldn't have been terminated if I did not bring forth issues that were important to the American public, that were important even for people outside the United States. So it is not a case about only a whistleblower and a case of the whistleblowers, but it is a case that sheds light to several important areas, including our foreign policy, which is hypocrisy-ridden, including certain individuals within our own government. We are not talking about only foreign individuals. We are talking about our own, what we refer to as U.S. officials, U.S. persons, who have been engaged in acts and in certain actions that are against the American public's best interest and what we stand for. And again, after 5 years, here we are. The American people, they don't know about this case yet, still. And despite the fact that they have been fully briefed, they have gotten full confirmation, the United States Congress has done nothing.
This makes one wonder who is actually working for the people and who is working for his own personal and private gains.
This is a very important issue, because this is when we get into these areas of as you just mentioned, the issue of, let's say, revolving doors, the issue of self-interest versus the interest of the American public, especially when you're talking about public servants. And these are the people who have been given access to our national security related issues, top secret documents, and have been given positions and authorities. And instead of using these for the benefit of the country, they have been throughout the years. I mean, this is not about, and I emphasize this is not about one party. This is not an issue of right wing versus left wing. This is not an issue of one administration only against another administration, because when you really go deep into these cases one by one, these people who are misusing and abusing their positions, these U.S. entities, these U.S. officials, it has been going on for a while, and we have been looking the other way, and the mainstream media has been looking the other way, and these are not top secret, because all you have to do is take a look at these people. And I always give examples of these people. I say, for example, look at to an individual such as Mr. Mark Grossman. You know, he used to be the ambassador, U.S. ambassador in Turkey, and then he was given this very high-level position within the State Department. And again, I cannot talk about the details of my case. I cannot talk about the targets of certain FBI counterintelligence operations. But to see that individual such as Mr. Grossman using that position to secure future higher level positions while in office, and I would like to emphasize this, while in office, and doing so while you have had several agencies knowing about it, and some people within these agencies wanting to investigate these cases, but then these investigations being prevented from going forward. You want to stop and say, why? In my case, with this one example that I gave you, I was told by my bosses, and these are the good people bosses, these are the agents that I work with, it was the fact that the Pentagon and the State Department, they were pressuring the Justice Department to pressing forward. And just take a look at where Mr. Grossman is today. You know, within a few months after he gave his resignation, he obtained this position with this certain, maybe semi-legit Turkish company that is supplying him with a very attractive, nice monetary reward every month. He obtained a position with a lobbying firm that represents, this particular foreign country, and then you can start, going around and looking at similar cases, such as Mr. Fight and Mr. Pearl. You know, they were registered foreign agents. They were registered as foreign agents for Turkey between 1988, 1989 till 1995. Very lucrative positions, both for the law firm that Mr. Fight was associated with at the time, and they were not representing the American government, and they were outside the government at that point. Well, did it end their position as in terms of which interests they represented once they went back into those high-level positions again within the U.S. government in 2000, be it Mr. Fight's position, be it Mr. Pearl's position? And unfortunately, you see from the congressional sides, you have seen it in late 80s and early 90s with Mr. Solars, Congressman Solars, and again, we saw it happening again with Congressman and later Chairman Livingston, and the great position that he obtained as a representative of a foreign interest. And we may see it shortly with individuals and current congressmen, such as former chairman, Mr. Hastert. It won't be surprising if we see another Hastert's group being established. And it is for the American public, it's for our own mainstream media to really look hard at these issues, because, again, this is an example of one country that we are talking about right now, one case. How many others there are, and why are we looking the other way? And do our people know, are they aware of trusting and giving the authority, giving the power, putting these people in power to represent them yet to sit back and actually see that it's not their interest that is being represented.
You're just one person and a translator working on issues that have to do mainly with Turkey. You had some 200 colleagues, so one wonders how many stories like this there are. This one story, your story by itself, is enough to show how corrupt the system is.
My case, this one case that you're referring to right now, is a case that has been known to a certain level because of all the activities that I have been engaged in terms of going to court, going to Congress, etc. There are other cases that we are not hearing about that I'm aware of that have to do with similar cases, maybe having to do with other countries. For example, again, this is another relevant case. An outside case is the Larry Franklin case with the espionage case that they pursued with AIPAC. And what the American public, they don't know is the fact that there were other counterintelligence operations within the FBI that obtained far more information that was, this information, they were not limited to only Mr. Franklin, to others that were similarly shut down in 2000, 2001, because it ended up going to higher levels and involving maybe way too many people, U.S. persons. When I'm talking about too many people, I usually try to limit it to those individuals that we would be interested, because they are the ones that I would describe as people who are breaking the law or misusing the trust or abusing their power. In some cases, I would even go as far as saying engaging in treason. But we don't hear about it because, again, it's very easy to see what happened with my case. What kind of example my case is presenting to those other people who may want to do the right thing and come forward. They say it doesn't make a difference in the end because she pursued every channel possible. I went as high as I could go with the courts, including the Supreme Court. And as you know, they issued a gag orders on me several times. They invoked the state secret's privilege, and they call it the neutron bomb of all executive privileges, saying everything about my case, including where I was born, including the languages I speak, including everything, is classified, and I'm prevented from even discussing it, whether or not I'm right. And she went all the way to Congress. She did the right thing. I was not what they call those leakers who went straight to the media and started divulging classified documents, but a person who said, okay, based on our regulations and laws, you go to the appropriate committee. That was the Judiciary Committee, and by the way, I went to the Intelligence Committee too, House and the Senate. She went through the other channel, legitimate channel, courts. By deposing people, I was going to shed light to these issues, because there will be witnesses, there are documents out there to show what's going on. That was blocked. She went to the Inspector General's office. This is the executive branch. She tried with the media. So many people, I don't blame them, they get pessimistic and they say, it doesn't make a difference. In fact, the only thing it's going to accomplish is I'm going to lose my job. I may even go to jail. And look how she suffered. I'm not about to do that. Many of these people, they are breadwinners for their families. They are putting the bread every night on the table. And many of these, again, conscientious people, they have put 15, 20 years into their careers. Oh, I'm 5 years away from the retirement, and I don't want to damage that. So you have many reasons why more people are not coming forward, from pessimism to examples such as my case, because they make an example out of you. That's exactly what they want to prevent, because if one case, let's say my case, were to really bring about justice and accountability, you will see so many people doing the same thing. And how many times, let's just look at in the past 1 decade, have you seen a whistleblower from any of these agencies coming forward, established with documented case, legitimate whistleblowers I'm referring to, and in the end, we have seen justice or accountability? I don't think you can name one case. So that's, again, another reason. And also, you're looking at all the other channels being culprits, sometimes even without intending. For example, there is a lot of, blame to be placed on our mainstream media today. Whether willingly or for whatever reason, maybe not as cynical as some people, they say, oh, big corporations own them, or they are in bed with the government. There are so many hypotheses out there. No matter what the reasons, they have been accomplices, for what has taken place in this country. They have been. By not reporting what they should be reporting, by not investigating what they should be investigating. How many true investigative journalists we have today? And by being, again, the mouthpiece for the special interests, be it in certain cases, individuals that we just gave example of, or the government itself. So they have abdicated their responsibilities. Our Congress, by not doing what it's supposed to be doing, because where do we look at? When we talk about issues such as accountability, investigations, we look at Congress. And they have been a major factor why we are not seeing more people coming forward from the FBI. The agents that I worked with, these people were solid, patriotic, good American, dedicated people. And they were as outraged as I was when I was going through these cases and reporting them internally. And they would be testifying under oath in Congress if they are called upon. If one of these committees, be it the Judiciary Committee or the Government Affairs Committee in the House, would set a hearing and bring these individuals along with others from the other side, these agents would be telling the truth under oath. And what would it take to get that done here today?
So in your opinion, what is the definition of an agent today in the U.S.? What is his job? I mean, an important portion of his work is what we're talking about, things that are actually not being dealt with and are being covered up. So it seems that agents are good agents as long as they're dealing with the enemy. But this enemy is decided by people who are often corrupt and even committing treason.
Correct. And then let's say I can't speak for other agencies, but I can speak for the FBI. Because within the FBI, you have different types of operations. For example, when you're looking at criminal cases, it is the agents and it's their jobs to collect evidence with the court warrants, etc., to go after the criminal and bring them into justice. To a certain degree, the same concept holds true for counterterrorism operations. There is this one division within the FBI that I consider the most important. And unfortunately, it is the worst treated operations activities within the FBI, and that is counterintelligence. Counterintelligence operations within the FBI is basically you have agents and translators and analysts overseeing the activities of foreign entities in our country. Now, these foreign entities that I'm referring to may have diplomatic cover, basically to see what kind of activities they are engaged. Is it, is it in espionage-related activities, or even, theoretically supposed to be even to look into criminal activities they may be engaged in. Now, even though these agents and these divisions, the way it is set up, it says, while they are monitoring these individuals, targeting them, wiretapping them, etc., if they come across criminal activities and U.S. persons who are engaged in these, what they should be doing, and they are able to do, there is nothing that prevents them from doing it, to take it, report it, go to the Justice Department, go to the courts, and start parallel investigations, no longer under counterintelligence, criminal or espionage cases, against the U.S. entities within our country. Now, by accident, as an example, this happened with this AIPAC case, because it started with the Washington field office where I worked, and it started long before I started working for the FBI, and with the translators and the analysts and the agents I spoke with, that operation started as counterintelligence. And the targets, let's say, were not even U.S. individuals. The targets were, let's say, hypothetically speaking, AIPAC and maybe Israeli embassies. It was after they came across these explosive activities and after a certain agent in charge decided, I'm going to really tackle this, and this was even before 2000, they opened a parallel investigation, and this is when we later heard about Douglas Feit's office and Larry Franklin, etc. Now, the same thing was about to take place with Turkish counterintelligence. In most of the, or main portion of the documented, whether wiretap or paper documents, investigations, operations that I translated verbatim, not only for Washington field office, but also for Chicago field office and also for New Jersey, etc., they were obtained before 2001. And if you were to put a date on it, you're looking at 1996, end of 1996 till 2001. Now, in 1980, 98, and 1999, there were so many pieces of evidence of U.S. individuals' involvements. We're talking about people with official positions, whether they were within the State Department or Pentagon or United States Congress, that forced the Justice Department and the good agents who did the right thing, again, they did the right thing, they started a parallel investigations which targeted these individuals that we may say they were committing possibly the acts of treason. However, and this I was told by first source agents I was working with, that was put on hold in 1999 because President Clinton, he was at the time going through the scandals with Lewinsky, etc. And what happened was, after the current administration came into power, and after I was working there, the agents and the operation, the unit, they were told to shut down that parallel criminal investigation portion of this. The ones that involve U.S. individuals, U.S. entities, officials. And as part of that, of course, you know, the espionage case, the person who ended up infiltrating the FBI, which has been again confirmed by the Inspector General's report by the U.S. Congress. And I was basically shut down in terms of shut her up. We cannot have this issue see the day of light. And again, the people who made that decisions were not the Justice Department or the FBI. And that's what I try to emphasize all the time. They were pressured, they were forced by higher-up forces within the Pentagon and the State Department. Now, what kind of reasonings they are giving behind the scenes, I don't know. I was not there, and I did not hear those. I can imagine, because they did similar explanations and justifications with the courts. This is, you're talking about very sensitive diplomatic relations. Yeah. And in fact, Attorney General then Ashcroft, he put it in his declaration when he invoked the state secret privilege in my case. Exposing these issues in courts, whether or not she's right, would damage certain sensitive diplomatic relations. In this case, we know one of the countries is Turkey. Also, it will hurt certain U.S. foreign business relations. This is within the declaration of the Attorney General, Dan Ashcroft. So you have a U.S. citizen here who has been deprived of her First Amendment right, gagged. I mean, is that an American concept, gagging a person? Because the state secret privilege and gag orders on me, it's on a U.S. citizen. You're not talking about an enemy combatant. You're not talking about a terrorist suspect. You're looking at a taxpayer, law-abiding American citizen who has been gagged by the United States government. I mean, this alone should give grips a lot of people in the United States. Here, look at an American citizen who has done nothing wrong. So these business relations, these diplomatic relations, have justified depriving a U.S. citizen from her First Amendment right, from her Fourth Amendment rights in court. In fact, they did the retroactive classification illegally with the U.S. Congress, gagging the Congress effectively in 2004 May. And they're not even naming this diplomatic relations. Are they ashamed of it? And this is one of the statements that I delivered after my court case, after they closed down, shut down the court case, saying that you can't do it. They are not even referring. What diplomatic relations you're referring to? Are you ashamed of this? So you're not even saying, what are you talking about? U.S. foreign business relations. Are we talking about this billions of dollars of weapons procurement? Why don't you be more specific? Because these are not top secret classified stuff. That's that's why I have been writing these papers, relying on outside sources, getting all the data. Oh, the U.S. foreign business relations, you're looking at $5 billion every 2 years of weapon procurements. That's not top secret. Who benefits from these? What companies? Who are the individuals who are benefiting from these? And is there anything in the issues, within the issues that I dealt with, that if it were, they were exposed, would in any way harm the Americans or their security? None. None whatsoever. In fact, there are issues and there are cases that would help with their national security, because the same activities involve also money launderings or certain narcotic activities. All you have to do, go and look at the State Department's own reports on Turkey and the opiums. 92% of the heroin supplied in Europe is coming through Turkey. It's being marketed, it's being distributed by Turkish individuals. UK, France, you look at it and this is not classified. This is within the State Department's own report. What are we doing about it? Because the poppies are being produced in Afghanistan. This is what I try to tell people. And Taliban-esque people are getting benefits, and the Al-Qaeda people are getting benefits of these poppies being sold to these individuals in Turkey, who then distribute and provide 92% of Europe's heroin market. Have we touched that? I mean, they are our allies after all, supposedly. Have we said clamp down on these narcotic activities because it's helping the terrorists and the terrorists are threats to our national security? No, we haven't. Have we? We have not.
Especially in the case of Afghanistan, I mean, we have traced very clear where the money is going. It's either going to these clans and groups of people, and also it's going to the Taliban. And I mean, this is not a secret.
No. Time magazine ran a piece about 11 pages, how the Afghanistan, opium production has increased. And then they also put the value of that opium production, and there were congressional statements there from various congressmen, including Walter Jones, who went to Afghanistan, saying a lot of it goes to support Al-Qaeda and Taliban. The number was about somewhere between $38 billion a year to $50 billion a year. Now, this Time magazine article limits the issue of these poppy production to some, to some farmers. You're looking at these. I'm not putting them down. You're looking at these Afghanis in shalwars, with their long beard, who are cultivating the poppies there. These people, they're not capable of managing $50 billion industry. They have a very, their own little share. The real production of labs for processing these into heroin, from taking it through the Balkan route by Turkish individuals, and these are the people, again, you're not looking at street-level thugs in Turkey. You're looking at Turkish military, you're looking at Turkish police, you're looking at Turkish MIT. A professor in Turkey in 2000 issued this documented report saying that a quarter of Turkey's economy relies on heroin production and distribution. Of course, he had to escape the country and go to Germany and have political asylum because he committed treason by criticizing the Turkish government. But the Time magazine article, my point is, it didn't talk about the main actors, the big people, the powerful ones, who are distributing, processing, marketing, laundering the proceeds, Those people were not touched. If you go and look at the reports, you're seeing the countries involved, Turkey, Cyprus, portion of Turkey, United Emirates, Dubai. None of those issues were conveniently touched by Time magazine article. So any American, any citizen who would read this article would say, oh, there are some bearded shalwar people who are making $50 billion a year and helping Al-Qaeda and Taliban. And this is so sad because, again, in this case, the culprit is Time magazine, because no, that's not the case. But who prevents the media, or is it happening, from publishing the real facts? The Turks, their involvement, United Emirates, and their position in laundering this money, Pakistan and narcotics. It's saying, oops, they are our allies. And we don't want to touch them. We don't want to turn them off. In fact, we have a lot of good business, sensitive diplomatic relations, as John Ashcroft put it there. Now, if one of them were in the part of the axis of evil, if one of them was Syria, or if one of them was Iran, or one of them was Korea, or before Iraq, if it was Saddam, oh, you would see the stink they would raise, how Saddam's country and people are helping Taliban with their finances and helping Al-Qaeda with these cases. But there was this big oops. It's our very close allies, the ones that we're giving billions of dollars of aid, the ones that the aid comes back and buys our weapons. We can't mess around with things like that. We have too many powerful people who are benefiting from this. We have too many powerful companies that are benefiting from this. There is this huge lobby industry that is benefiting from this. Who's representing the American people? Well, we know former chairman, Mr. Livingston, today is representing their interests. Therefore, our Congress is representing these foreign, and I'm not talking about the people in Turkey, their interests. I'm talking about certain interest people there. And we know that it's established. We know how much money they're getting. Livingston, how much is going through various ways into the pockets of our representatives. But who's really representing the American public? It's very hard to establish. And how? It's very hard to see the track record. And these are the issues that you wish that the mainstream media here in this country would cover. And they are not. But I'm glad you're covering it.
Let us talk about you, your frustrations, your feelings. How do you deal with all this?
Well, I can't say it's been easy, and as you said, and it has been the case with so many whistleblowers, that built up that pressure, which I will be talking about, comes to a point that many will either have nervous breakdown or they would explode, and the anger, like to contain that disappointment, saying, my country, my government has let me down, the mainstream media has let all of us down. And they do explode, or they get disgusted and they go away. They say, after 1 year of fighting, after 2 years of fighting, they say, what the heck with it? I'm just turn around, I'm going to leave. And if you explode, you have given them the perfect excuse to point at you and say, look, this person is crazy. You know, she's not legitimate. If you go and explode and put out some documents that you may be able to, or maybe you may not be able to put out, they have an excuse saying she has breached security and we are going to jail her. Again, they benefit. They being the enemies of these people who are the ones who have gone with the gag orders and covering up these issues. And then if you go away, they have won. Because they have been winning. Because they have been doing these, and they have been active in these criminal activities. I don't have any better way of describing, for many years, because they have gotten away with it. They have gotten away with it because nobody has been willing to come forward, and right now it's only me. And believe me, as you just said, if there were one or two other agents who could have committed to that much compromise and sacrifice and come forward, maybe you would have seen, or we would have seen, more progress. But the fear factor is so great out there, driven and continued it for 5 years, because I have lived in this country for over 18 years. I'm an American citizen. Now, when you're born here, you are granted your citizenship. You don't go and take any oaths. So maybe a lot of people, they take it for granted. I don't know. You're a citizen by default. I did not become a citizen by default. It was a conscious choice. I had a citizenship of another country. I was not here for economic reasons. It was a conscious decision to say, I really want to become a citizen in this country. And at that point, I was a student of this country's history and its laws. And I was really mesmerized. You know, the Bill of Rights, you know, how many countries have a real Bill of Rights? You know, the First Amendment and all these laws and rights that are applicable to all citizens. And I really wanted those to apply to me. Because I admired it, and I had a choice. By choice, going and saying, I want to become a citizen. And take the oath. And as part of that oath, you make a commitment too as a citizen. And the commitment is you do stand up for this country's constitutions and rights and people, whether the enemies threatening it are domestic or foreign, and that is in our oath. If you go and look, against all enemies, foreign or domestic, doesn't make a difference. And I did take it seriously, and I do take it seriously. And I also look at the alternative, and the alternative being, okay, take your losses and go away. It's just going to get worse and it's going to increase. And a lot of, again, Americans, they think this is about only one whistleblower who lost her job. This is about one case. They don't see themselves affected. You know, with September 11, 9/11, they saw themselves directly affected. I can be next. Well, trying to tell them with the money laundering, with the narcotics, with their own representatives going against their own interests, they are all being affected. Every single one of them are being affected by what is being covered up, by foreign interests that are being protected unjustifiably. And even those foreign entities, people are being affected negatively. That is, let's say in this case being the Turkish public, Turkish people. They are not benefiting economically, or their security, or their human rights issues, or any of these cases from the activities of those thugs that are operating under their own official titles there. So, it's been 5 years, and I never thought it would continue for 5 years. I thought how you opened your interview today, when you said, well, you went to 5 years ago to the Judiciary Committee. When I went to the Judiciary Committee in March 2002, I thought that was it. That's all I had to do. Go, give them the documents, which I did, give them the facts, the names. It's established. Everything will be taken care of. It was not. When I went to the IG, Inspector General's office for the Justice Department, during the same period of time, I thought, that's it. My job is done. When I went to courts, I thought this was it. It was done. And I never thought I would be sitting here 5 years later and say everything was shut down successfully and no accountability whatsoever and no justice has taken place. And basically my hope, my objective has boiled down to the American public, the people. And again, that's another extremely difficult task with the absence of a real mainstream media and investigative journalism. And I'm still trying. I set up this organization, and now we have other whistleblowers, and we are trying to encourage others, like those you referred to, those good agents there who dealt for Turkish counterintelligence operations and the FBI, the analysts who dealt with those. And that's not the only agency. There are other agencies in this nation, in our government, with good, conscientious people who work there, who should be saying enough is enough. It's time to stand up.
What can be done in this issue? What can ordinary citizens do?
As I just said, those official channels, I have pursued them all and unsuccessfully for the past 5 years. And I said now it boils down to the people. People standing up and demanding the right actions. I don't want to get my job back with the FBI. Don't take me wrong. That's not what I'm after. I am not asking to be compensated in any way for my sufferings. One of those is I can never go back to Turkey and visit my families. I have been blacklisted and I'm wanted under their treason law in Turkey because I have committed, based on Turkish treason laws, as any good journalist in Turkey would automatically commit, the act of treason. Something that would damage certain official thugs over there, or criticize Turkey, or show Turkey under some negative lights. Under their treason laws, all those people are treasonous and they should basically be arrested and taken to military tribunal. And I'm sure you know that because all you have to do, go and read Human Rights Watch reports and see what happens to any good reporters in Turkey. And if they are lucky, by the way, they would end up in the military tribunal. If not, they will end up dead and without any answers, or they disappear, because if you look at the tens of thousands of people who have disappeared in the past 10 years in Turkey for political reasons, the number is astonishing for a country that is considered a democracy and a great ally, because you have tens of thousands of good activist students who have just disappeared into the thin air. Nobody knows where they are. You know, the things that we usually look at, I don't know, it happened once upon a time in Argentina or Chile, and it's like, things like that happen in those communistic countries. But I don't know how easy to say that things like that happen in a great democracy and an ally country. So, so I'm not asking to be compensated for that. I'm not asking to get my position back. I have been asking for justice to take place, for the American people to know what's going on, and for those people who are working against their interests to be held accountable. Now, as you said, courts have failed. Me pursuing inside skips with Congress, those activities have failed. The mainstream media has failed. Recently, about 2 months ago, more than 30 organizations, they came forward and signed this petition because up until last January 2007, some really respect-worthy, great representatives, Democratic Congress people, and the leader of that group was and is, I hope still is, was at the time Congressman Henry Waxman of California. And I briefed Congressman Waxman's staff inside the skiffs several times in more than one occasion by giving them the same details I gave 5 years ago to the Judiciary Committee. They obtained the classified version of the Inspector General's report, and this took place 2 years ago. And they were outraged. Congressman Waxman, in fact, I have several letters from him saying he finds these actions against me and these gag orders stunning, and that if it were not for the majority at the point, the chairman, the Republicans, they were preventing a hearing from taking place on my case, that they would do it. And this is Congressman Waxman's office. Well, in January, after we went through the change, and now Chairman Waxman is Chairman Waxman, and there is no power within the Congress who can prevent him from holding this hearing. No power. He has the jurisdiction, the authority, the power to put the hearing there. I have already obtained the consent and names of conscientious good agents who worked. One of them was the head of Turkish counterintelligence operations, and he actually retired 2 years ago. They are all willing to come and testify to all the issues that I have been gagged on. And that gag doesn't work in Congress during a hearing. And so in January, and after the elections result, especially since we have such a great chairman today, we had 30 organizations, and these are major organizations, and we call it transpartisan because we have organizations from the right, we have organizations from the left, we have organizations that are whistleblowers related, such as Project on Government Oversight, POGO, Government Accountability Project, gagged, National Whistleblower Center. We have human rights related organizations. We have national coalitions against censorship. We have civil liberties related organizations such as the ACLU, Liberty Coalitions. We have 30 solid organizations have come together and put together this petition addressed to Chairman Waxman, saying, you have been promising us for the past 5 years. This case, in fact, according to the ACLU, I am the most gagged woman in the history of this country. There has been no case of an American citizen who has had so many gag orders issued on her. We put this petition, 30 plus organizations signed on, and they delivered it in March 2007, just a month ago, to Chairman Waxman's office. We had 15,000 citizens who signed it and sent it to Chairman Waxman's office. And based on the office's own report, tens of thousands of people in the past 3-4 weeks have called to say, well, when are you going to hold a hearing? And we have received no response. And we don't know why. None of these organizations know why, because they have all the facts, they have all the confirmation. Hey, they have the IG report. They have the executive branch's own report saying she's credible and her allegations have been supported by other witnesses and documents. We are not talking about, at this point, allegations. We're talking about facts, documented witness facts. And I believe, and I still believe, that the citizens, the Americans, who care about their rights, their country, can make this happen. Because with 30 organizations, maybe with 10,000 people, it hasn't happened because one of the factors is not present there, and that is mainstream media. And of course, we know the mainstream media has such influence over the Congress. Whatever makes the headline. If issue ABC is right now is making the headline, I, congresswoman or congressman, I'm going to hold a hearing and I'm going to have FaceTime, you know, and media time and attention, sometimes for good reasons. I'm not saying for any, you know, negative reasons, but media has not paid attention, and maybe, I'm not saying that's the case, maybe Congress is not finding it worthy of their attention despite all its severe consequences because the media is not there. The citizens can change this. The constituents of Chairman Henry Waxman in California, in Los Angeles area, they can change that. They can say, you represent us, you represent our interests, and you are the chairman of the Government Reform Committee. Government reform. Well, this is about bringing reform into government. This is about bringing reforms into these wrongdoings within our government, with people who are paying the price being all its citizens. So, after not hearing back from Chairman Waxman through this petition and 30 organizations, now I am trying to reach to those constituents in California. I'm trying to reach to all citizens in this country and say, forget about me. This is not about Sibel Edmonds. This is not about a whistleblower losing her or his job, which itself is a very terrible thing. It sends a wrong message about doing the right thing. But even for now, let's put that aside and to say, let's go to the core issues. What was it that she reported that caused all these gag orders and firing and threats? What was it? It was not about her. What I reported had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the interest of the American public being stumped upon. It had to do with those who have been elected and given their authorities and power by this nation, by its citizens, betraying them. It has to do with those peoples who are using their positions in our executive branch agencies to obtain lucrative early retirement positions afterwards, to be representatives of foreign interests, and not afterwards. This is very important. In order to obtain it afterwards, they have to service those foreign interests while they are working and have those positions. That's how they earn those future positions. That's how it happens. If you look at these cases, in every single one of them, that's how it happens. You start serving the interests of outside foreign influence before you obtain your positions afterwards, when you say bye to your civil service position. And that is in especially some cases criminal. That is not something that should be tolerated by this country, by this great country and its people. And we need to set an example of those people. We have the facts, we have the documents, we have the witnesses. And it's time to do it. So to do it, to stand up and to call, and not one phone call, calling Chairman Waxman's office, keep calling until they get an answer. When is that hearing going to take place? That's not difficult. For each citizen, it may cost them 4 minutes. But the benefit to this country and the number of issues that we're going to shed light to is way worth it. And if it was not, they wouldn't have gone this far to gag it. Because I have been fighting very hard. But you need to pay attention. They have been fighting very hard too, because this is unprecedented. If I am the most gagged woman in the history of this country, and if they have gone as far as invoking the state secret's privilege, the issue is important enough. So for anyone who wants to, or who may naturally say, well, how do I know this case is credible? I'll tell you, there is a report. There are statements from bipartisan senators, Senator Grassley, Senator Leahy, from Congressman Waxman, and these are all on-the-record statements establishing the credibility for the case. The credibility has been established. The importance of this case has been established. Our government has taken unprecedented steps to silence and cover up this case. That should tell the American public how important this case is. And call Chairman Waxman, write to him, and do not stop until we have this hearing in place. And we have the agents, we have the people testify, and I'm going to emphasize two words here. A, they testify under oath. B, for the hearings to be public. I have had some hearings, they have been behind closed doors inside SCIF. In Congress, I have briefed them. They already have this information. That's the point I'm trying to make here. They have this information. Inside the SCIF, I have given them, be it Chairman Waxman, be it Senator Grassley, be it Senator Leahy, I have given them this information. It's the American public's turn to hear about this. So it's a possibility that in light of, let's say, decision by the chairman to hold a hearing, the government comes and says it needs to be in closed session, not public, because these are classified issues. They are not. If that happens, we won't get anywhere, because then it's futile, and I would not even be willing to testify, because I have already done so. 5 years ago, I have given them behind the closed doors testimony. So did other witnesses. So it's time to have an open public hearings and have people under oath. I am willing to testify under oath. And the consequences of lying is severe. And so let's make this happen. And let's say when all channels that we rely upon, be it the courts and the Congress and the executive branch and the mainstream media, fail us, we still should move forward and not stop and reach out to the American public and make it happen. And I hope that we can do it, because not being able to do it sends a very bad, awful message to our children and our grandchildren to say the active citizenry is dead in this country. And nothing either comes out of it, or people don't care, don't do it. We take pride of being Americans and the lovers of and supporters of the freedom. Let's show it that we can do it despite the fact that we don't have these 4 channels. So there's Chairman Waxman, an honorable individual and established case. Now we just need the public to say, let's do it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.